Kia ora whanau, and it is a whanau.
Yeah.
Hey, Hana, when it comes to kotahitanga, who's the hardest to wrangle around here?
I don't know if it's the government or these two.
I reckon, eh? When you hear the name Kiingi Tuheitia, what do you think of?
Old soul who is wise and a little bit cheeky, and I also think of our Kiingitanga movement. So I guess two layers to that.
Potaka, what do you think Tuheitia's special power was?
Oh, I think he, well, one of the ones that we had a direct experience with is that he was always encouraging younger people, right? I mean, Hana's a perfect example. You know, one of the options actually for the area was Dad. And then he goes, oh, that's a bit old. And then it was me, and he goes, oh, that's still too old. So he was the one that encouraged young people to have a voice, and he wanted to promote female voices too. So that's something that I saw personally that many older men don't really encourage. So that's something that I thought, oh, yeah, that's cool.
Old, of course, can mean very experienced, can't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. How would you describe your relationship with Tuheitia?
I think the description I have is when he was a young boy with his mum, running around at her feet as a young boy in Rahui Pōkeka. So, you know, I just thought too that, you know, getting the title was very, very, very difficult for him, I would think, during the time anyway. But no, hard-working young man.
Yeah.
He was a very hard-working young man, that's for sure.
Yeah.
He always wanted to do things with a crane, with his hands.
Kind of handy fella.
He was very handy, very handy.
And so my understanding is that you had quite a strong role with his mother in terms, and could you just tell me what that was?
Oh no, I was the chair of the Koroneihana for some 20 years, I think it was.
Yeah.
So it was just making sure that people were being looked after, doing the real workers were the ones on the ground, actually. The waitresses, the people who do the waikōrero, you know, those were the real workers. And all I did was in the background to make sure that things were running so swiftly.
I think you're underplaying your impact there. When I watch what's going on at the tangi, it's incredible, the kind of mobilising. Everybody seems to have their job. I saw my mate Te and she's like organising the karanga, and then there's parking and all that. It's a well-oiled machine, isn't it?
Well-oiled machine, absolutely. They all started from a very young age too.
Yeah.
You know, we were children of, my father was in the office, my mum was in the kitchen. So it's generation.
I heard that. So people kind of, and their roles are passed on.
Passed on, yeah. And that's how I got involved, because of my father.
So, Hana, can you tell me about your relationship with Tuheitia?
I guess when we first started our campaign this time last year, people either thought I was crazy, they felt sorry for me, or they laughed at me. There was nothing in between. However, it was our king who reached out to call a hui. I then asked him, you know, if there's ever a possibility that I would get in, what would you want me to do for our movement, for you? And he literally just said, just be you. And said, you are going to make it, and I need you to believe in yourself.
Potaka, what do you think the biggest challenge facing him in his leadership role was?
Oh, I think it was taking over from his mother, right? Because his mother had built up decades of respect. And then you had this small woman who basically the world loved. And then you had a man coming in to taking over the role, and it was a change. So the whole thing had to change. Like Dad and them, they had been there for 20, 30 years with the Queen, and she had this whole support base around her. And then it changed, you know, changed to a male, changed back to a male. And I think that was his biggest challenge, was how does he keep the movement going, and he had to forge his own path, and that's difficult, especially when you had someone like Te Ariki Nui who, you know, she basically walked on water.
She had a real grace about her, didn't she?
That's right.
She's lovely. So what did you observe, Timi, when you were watching, like how he the kind of challenges he faced?
Oh, yeah, well, like, you know, once you come from where the mother was highly respected, it would probably been difficult for him to take the role. But I thought he did it very well, actually, because he had a lot of good support around him. You know, he changed the way in which the people that he wanted around him. So it was very good for him to do what he did, to try to make sure that he led the movement in his way. So I congratulate him for that.
It is a challenge when you come out of a certain space, like you're saying he gets a digger out, he's the practical dude, and then he's got to take on this mantle of kind of respect. Did you see him handle that well?
Yeah, I think he handled it as well as he can be, because he wasn't trained to do it, eh? You know.
How come they're not trained to do it?
Yeah, true. Well, they aren't really, because people make the choice who they decide. And he was around his mother a lot. There's no doubt about that. But he had his own business to do, and he ran it the way he wanted to run it. So I think he was a hard worker. He did his job very well behind the tractor, that's for sure.
Yeah. So Hana, he made public pronouncements around supporting Te Pāti Māori, which probably a whole bunch of people went, whoa, we don't make those statements. Did he continue on with that support, or what do you think? Do you know?
I think for me, the first kind of conversations that we had was like, and I understand that you need to be apolitical.
Yes.
And then he said, I'm not apolitical, I'm a-Māori. And then...
That's a nice statement.
And then, you know, I don't agree with Winston on a few things, but I agreed with him on this recent statement he made was Kiingitanga is above politics. And you will see that he invited all parties, all hahis, tangata tiriti, tangata moana, tangata whenua to the marae of the world, which was Tūranga Waiwai. And he never made people feel unwelcome. So even the government of the day, he still saw light, and he still encouraged us to forge a pathway where we can unite together, which was really, really inspirational. You know, even if he tells us, oh, no, hold up, anei te ara, ki te kotaitanga.
I saw at one of the hui, that big hui at the start of the year, and he was doing his kōrero, and then he started to say something. He was kind of inferring, oh, we don't exactly have kōtahitanga here, you know, and I could see some people go, and then other people go, you know. Did he go off script a bit, Potaka, do you reckon?
I mean, I think that's the reality, eh? You know, is there kōtahitanga, you know, and whether we're just talking families, you know, your marae, you know, is anyone's marae kōtahitanga, you know, like honestly. And then you got iwi hapu, and then you have to unite Māoridom, you know, because not everyone's jumping in on the waka, you know. Some people will be polite, but no, that's not my king, you know. So I think it's the hardest thing to achieve, but he's done a good job of getting us to where we are.
Yeah.
You know, as much as we can be, we are.
So to me, you have a experience in activism and kind of rattling the cages and shaking the trees. Is there a place for Kiingitanga as a movement in that space?
Yeah, I think what he did actually recently was the unification. And I didn't see him allow anyone not to be part of the movement. You know, whether you were radical or not, I never saw that in him, actually. You know, he wanted unification, and he got it from everybody. I haven't met my ex-members of Tamatoa. I don't know what they thought, but I think one of the things that he did well was to unify.
Potaka, is there any story that you can share with us that shows us the side of Tuheitia that we don't know?
Oh, I think it's probably the calmness he shows with the young people, and the time he gives them. That's the side that I mentioned it earlier, but you know, when Hana was moving into politics, there were a lot of people that came to her with an agenda, but he was caring. He cared about how she felt, you know, and he was genuine about that.
That's nice.
Yeah, and it's probably, you know, I think he might have, he's not the only one, but he was one of the very few that just came to make sure that she was all right, and encouraged her on the qualities she had. Yeah, so that's what I liked about it.
Nice. So what's the burning memory you all have of him?
The burning memory I have. You know, that haka that he did in at Turanga Wawa when he stood and did Te Oranga. It was very, very powerful, I thought. And it showed his mana in that haka that I saw anyway. Because, you know, everybody does it. It's a common haka now. But when he did it that day at the river, I thought it showed his, you know, haka leaders show mana. And I think he showed it that day. Firstly, he wasn't a king, of course, but I think he was ready for it.
What about you, Hana? What's your enduring memory you have of him?
The first ever time I kind of saw him personally as a little girl was he was on the track day at our marae at Te Ohaki, and he was doing the whole lawn. He was mowing all the lawns on the big tractor. And I went into the wharika and I was like to my sister, the king's mowing the lawns. And it looked like he really, really enjoyed it. He loved looking after the marae, I think, in his own way, his own contribution.
Oh, kia ora, Hana. Kia ora, Potaka, Timi.